So we are doing the higher quality video that's in landscape mode, and that's the one that should get posted.
Gotcha.
So if
to
anybody,
YouTube, you mean?
yeah, because I do understand when people go, it drives them crazy to look at something that's vertical.
I know that's in
you know?
vertical format and not landscape.
Yeah.
But then Instagram is only in vertical format. I mean, I guess we could turn it sideways, but then that's just straight.
Yeah. So
what are you doing today?
I was gonna play with this. This is a Strathmore multimedia paper. That's this is 500 series, which is like the best quality.
Nice.
This is the best quality paper that they have. See, this is what happens. There's the drawing, and here's the ghost when it starts to form, when the sketch paper moves.
Mm-hmm.
People have asked, how to minimize that. Well, you can spray fix it. I like it, actually. It's fun. I mean, it doesn't bother me.
You don't bother that the original drawing gets smudged a little?
Not really. Not at all. I mean,
it's pretty beautiful.
Oh, thanks. But this is a good paper. Strathmore has like the 400 series, which is kind of like the go-to paper for most. Like, it's a not an expensive paper, but it is a high quality paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not very. It's not. They have Bristol for thicker stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has a certain kind of tooth, and it depends on what I'm doing as to what kind of tooth I want. I play with whenever I first get like a sketchbook, I'll like end up doing this kind of stuff where I'll just play with it and mess with it and figure out what its range is and the kind of the stuff that I do. This is just like a 6B.
What are you going to draw
drawing.
tonight?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it yet. I actually did something and cut it out too.
Just cut it out.
So I'll have to go.
Do you ever use Arches paper?
Arches, yeah, I love Arches. Arches watercolor paper, the hot press I use all the time. The only issue I ever have with hardbound sketchbooks is when you open it, they don't lay flat, and this can get in.
It drives you crazy.
Well, only if you're like trying to show people things, right? Because it can get in the way. But you could also just turn it this way, and I could use a clip. One of these. I have a clip that'll hold it. All my clips are holding bones right now. Bones or fetal pigs. So, but that may not work. That's not going to work, but I'll figure it out.
On the side.
Huh?
Or top.
Or I'll just get a regular Strathmore pad. The only reason is I don't want it laying open on, I guess it won't hurt if it's on this side.
Don't put it on the painting. You put it on the painting.
Well, it's oil, and ain't gonna.
That makes me nervous. Do you have a bulldog clip on there over there?
This should make you nervous.
Oh my God! Take the coffee off the painting. Jesus Christ!
This is
I think the orange juice might have been worse, but
this is gesso board, by the way.
gesso board.
Yeah, which is a more absorbent tooth than the clay board is in terms of paint. Well, not more absorbent. Clay board will suck the oil right out of a paint, but
right,
gesso board is a more. The gessoed surface is actually it's the opposite.
They're laughing
clay board.
at you. Putting.
You've
done that to me several times. I should not let it bother me, but it still drives me crazy.
What I need is a binder clip, but I don't have any in here.
No, that's what I was looking for. A binder clip.
I know. So.
I'm not turning around and showing everyone everything.
Sorry.
It's alright. I'll just.
I could just cut a page out of it. Or I'll just use this. So.
See, someone else almost had a coronary with a coffee.
So I'll just draw on the regular Strathmore stuff until. You know what I end up doing with the hardcover books like this? I usually end up cutting the binders off and separating all the sheets anyway.
Someone says, do something exciting.
Exciting.
Exciting? You have 4 of the same exact.
Well, I've been going through them and seeing what's partially done and what's not,
Yes. Yes, someone asked if you were going to draw today.
I am. I'm just like, we
were out looking at universities today with our sons.
We went to a university. Okay, don't step on that.
I won't step on it.
All right, is that going to be on the video?
Yep.
Where is it?
That's
here?
fine.
Where's the bottom?
Needs to come down.
This is the bottom right here. No, don't do that. I just need to mark where it is so I can remember.
Yes, we were out visiting a university with our 11th grader.
We were at Uno,
Yeah.
University of New Orleans.
University of New Orleans.
Right, that's where it starts. So
it was a little bit.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off. Oh no, I turned it up.
So we're a little scattered.
Yeah, I got up after like an hour and a half sleep because I was determined to go on this.
Oh
field
yeah,
trip.
he also hasn't any sleep.
So if I'm a little fragmented, it's because of that. But
because working at night, the only problem is when they schedule tours of universities and things like that, they don't take that into account.
yeah, because I almost always, I'm on a night schedule, so I do have to sometimes just go. I'm just not gonna sleep. And now I won't go to sleep until my normal time, so I'll just, be without it.
Can we get a 360-degree view of his studio?
Right now? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay, it can't be on the other video, the big video.
I'll clean it up too and show you what it really looks like when it's not trash.
This is trash, man. Wait,
Yeah.
is there anything we can't show? There are some things we can't show. Right there, right?
No, everything's fine.
It's trashed.
It always gets trashed when I start painting because everything else, all my head just goes straight to the work.
And it was freezing, so I had to bring in all my plants that were out the back. So the plants are in the middle of there. It's just a mess. Like cabinets, everything.
So
it's kind of a mess.
And add to that we became a puppy rescue family this week. We have a new puppy in the house. It's
some tiny little thing that looks like a tiny little footprint.
Does it?
No, it's gonna be an eyeball.
Maybe.
What's it gonna be? Do you ever suffer from a sore back or neck?
I did until I got an overly priced chair. I got this Aeron chair, which they make, less costly ones. But at the time, I was working in San Francisco, and so I was like, I'm gonna get this. All my friends who have suffered with back problems suggested it, and I got it. And it's probably, until the hydraulics go out on it, which you can have refilled, I'll only ever use this chair. Since I've gotten it, I've had no back problems whatsoever.
Scatter Brain Gallery says you're a mess.
I am a mess.
Which is funny. So. Hello, Nelson says, hello from the Philippines. I used to follow you in Florida. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, thanks. That's cool.
It is a beautiful mess. That's all right. It's
Wait, from the Philippines, did they used to live in Florida? Is that what happened?
So,
That's
yes.
cool. So, and they'd moved back to the Philippines or visiting? I'm getting personal.
Apparently so. Everybody else's desk is a mess too.
Yeah, well.
We all know you are.
There's
some people that are.
I go through periods where, well, you can tell if my studio is clean, it means I'm thinking about working and not actually working.
Oh, that's the truth.
Yeah.
I'll walk out and go, I think I'm going to clean my studio today. I'm like, oh God, you have something to do in 3 days. You're like, I know.
And that's why I'm cleaning my studio a bit.
All right. Do you transfer your drawing and seal it behind acrylic medium? Sometimes.
I have done that. Yeah. In fact, this drawing, actually, we have there's a couple of videos Vicki's already posted about the beginning process where I actually.
I've only gotten to the first one.
Well, I have.
Sorry,
I have what, 4 of them, 4 videos that are the sketching process.
Yes.
Where I did a drawing and then I did a larger drawing and then I essentially traced my larger drawing and then transferred it to a board. And then once I got to the board, I don't know if that's on the video or not.
Not yet.
I spray fixed it and then sealed the whole thing with a gloss medium because I like oil painting on a slick surface, which is the opposite of what a lot of people do.
Right.
But and I do matte medium a lot if I want to kill the glare.
Right. Do you auction your drawings? I just usually sell them either directly through Instagram or Facebook, or I put them on our website, which is at AllenWilliamsStudio.com.
We have been tempted though by current events I'm working on some magic cards that I'm doing traditionally, and I've been told by my other artist friends that those should be auctioned because apparently they have a good the originals have a good sale value. But I haven't done traditional magic cards in a long time. I've usually only worked digitally for that sort of stuff.
Honey and the Moonchild asks, what is your opinion on artists using projectors to help map out their work?
You know what? In the end, I don't care. However you get your work on your board. The only thing I personally don't like doing is photo bashing when it's somebody else's work. I don't even care if you photo bash your own work. And most of the time, most of the artists that I know that do photo bash stuff is for concept, which is it's completely a necessity in that field because it has to be done so quickly. But in terms
Concept
of
being it isn't used for a final. It's
right,
just
it's only used to get the idea across.
But you don't
That's
care
just
about projectors.
now.
And,
That's my opinion. I don't care about how you get the work on the board. I have friends, professional illustrators and painters, who will actually print their sketches onto illustration board, and then they work on top of the print, and they've mounted the print to a board. I really don't care. There are collectors though that are purists, and you will run into different people that will hesitate to buy something if it's like a painted, like if your sketch is on a has been printed out instead of traditionally transferred. But to me, it's like in the end, most of the people that I know that do it, they paint opaquely over this thing, and it's the actual original sketch isn't even part of the of the piece anymore. It's just something that was there as a guideline. In fact, in illustration, when I was in school, the first thing they said was, you're going to run into deadlines with this stuff, so learn how to use an artograph. When
artograph is old school projector.
Well, they are the new ones, and I have one. I have an artograph that I project my own drawings onto boards to enlarge them.
Right.
So I'll do a detailed drawing and then project it onto a board, and then sometimes I'll painstakingly go through it. Sometimes I'll just use it for guidelines. But I usually use it for projecting, for enlarging drawings rather than projecting,
right,
like say figures or people or things like that.
Everyone's being very complimentary.
Oh, thank you.
Do you sometimes you paint directly on your drawings or after it's sprayed and sealed?
I have, yeah, and
not recently. Though.
I don't do it recently because I got into a phase too where or I got into a mindset where I actually like to do drawings as finished things, and I don't like painting on top of them because the painting invariably, for me anyway, goes in so many different directions that the original drawing is obscured, and whatever was there is lost. So that's why I'll do it. I'll do a highly detailed drawing now for myself on paper, and then I will use something like like a projector to project the details onto a board, and then I'll basically trace my own drawing. Okay. Or I'll use like what I did for this piece, which was just a piece of tracing paper. And
that was just basic outlines.
That was just in fact
a map. I think.
In fact, this doesn't really. There's nothing in this that lines up with the original drawing that I did for it. It's vaguely similar. It's in the same form language.
It's the same stepping forward.
Yeah, you would say that the two characters were. You could say that they were the same character. You would know that this was the same character, but all the detail lines and stuff are different. And I do that because if I try to reproduce line for line something I've already drawn, it starts to get static. It starts to the energy starts to become lost. So I let myself draw back into it quite a bit.
How do you keep motivated and creative on days when you're not feeling great?
Vicky motivates. Well, no,
no,
she's sitting back behind me making the whip motion. But no,
I don't
Vicky
have to do that anymore.
She doesn't really. Actually, the only thing you've ever really had to motivate me on is like deadlines, because I'll jump into work, and in the middle of work I'll start working on other things as well.
Or I'll just take too long into work that I'll take too long. You realize it's Thursday, and he'll go, "No, it's Monday," and I'll go, "No."
But in terms of being motivated, I guess you could say that I'm an outlier, and that I don't really get artist block. What I do have is a period of time before each and every piece that I do where I get a little bit irritated and angry because I want to do something, and I'm going through this period of assessment where I determine whether or not what I want to do is worth doing.
And that's with every single one.
But that's with everything.
Remember Zoe was talking about that.
Yeah.
We had figured that out.
Yeah, I have a period of, I think Zoe called it the tantrum phase.
We were trying to think of something nicer to call it.
Where I will actually walk, I don't ever get outwardly, irritated, but I'll stalk around my studio in a very quiet mood with the, that furrowed brow, and be very pensive, because I'm figuring out if what I want to do is something that is worth doing, or something. See, I have, much to the dismay of many people who do this, professionally, I tend to shy away from doing series work because I lose interest if I'm doing it just to recap. If I'm doing it to, I guess you could say, if I'm doing it to capitalize on the success of one piece, I lose interest in doing a series of work because of that. If I can only do series work if I'm motivated to feel the same way that I felt in the original piece or discover new things. So this last show that I had at Copro, I had this series. It was called the Covenant, but I had a small, like a series in the show that were called The Imperfections, and there were like 6 or 7 pieces that were in the same theme, and I never stopped to think about whether or not they were popular or not, but I stopped to think about what I was trying to express through them, and what I was trying to say, and that worked for me. I tried to do a series a long time ago when I was doing more mainstream kind of medieval fantasy. An Arthurian series, and I think I got through 2 or 3 of them. I think I got through 3 of them, and then I lost interest because it felt like I was just doing kind of the same piece over and over again because the first one was popular, and a good business person has the ability to do that. By the way, I'm not saying that's as criticism if you do that, because that's actually good business in the art market. Because if you have something that people like, there's no reason not to capitalize on it. It's just that when I try to do that. Psychologically, I just, it never worked for me.
Well, it just doesn't. It's just.
Well, it just didn't. The money didn't motivate me. When I was like younger, I mean, I had so little money, it couldn't be a motivation at that point. And then when I got older, it's like all of the things that I like that I want to buy, I have on my desk right now. Mostly, I have pencils and erasers and art supplies and I seem pretty. I actually have done other things besides art. I've like been to foreign countries and things like that. It seems like I never leave my desk. But the original question was, how do I stay motivated? And I don't usually have a problem staying motivated because I see so much of what's going on in the world, and it inspires so much in me. But I know that's not helpful to people because I know that it's a normal common problem to lose motivation at different times.
Right.
And I tend to lose motivation when I do lose it on contract work, because it's going in a direction I don't like, or it's made by committee, or it's just something I normally wouldn't do. So.
Well, we space it out now. I don't think it's contract work. I think it's when you get overwhelmed, when you schedule too much contract work together.
Well, Vicki's probably more objective about that than I am. So. And you probably see it.
Keep you from saying yes and space it out and do the deadlines a little further, then I don't think you have a problem with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I especially lately, it's gotten to a point now where I guess I've done enough of it that I can keep everything at a professional level, and that's kind of okay. So what they tell you is you have to be able to work even when you're not inspired. And so that's the part that they're talking about.
8 a.m. I'm inspired every day at 8 a.m.
Well, that's the writer had said that, do you only work when you're inspired? He goes, yeah, but I'm inspired every morning at 8 a.m. That's when he goes to work.
Get a schedule.
And what it is just being at your desk at that moment when you become inspired.
All right, you will stay on this one question the whole time.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm an art teacher for elementary students, and I'm also looking for my own path. Your work is very inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Very much.
Do you teach the youngsters, like, who are in zeal to learn drawing?
You know what? I think the most important thing that I've run across, and this is just in my experience, and yours may differ, is that just to get them excited about picking up a pencil is more important than sometimes teaching foundational basics at a certain age. When I was young, I got to draw whatever I wanted to because nobody around me knew what to do with me. So I just would sit around and play. I used to copy pictures out of comic books, but I got excited about it. And the thing that they say about artists is you motivate artists by not giving them money or telling them what to do, but by inspiring them.
Right.
And I think that's the same thing with children. If you let them learn how to play with something, they'll learn it better. My first art teacher, when we were playing with colored pencil, he said, "I want you to do a finished piece, but I don't want it to be representational." So we weren't like immediately thinking we had to do something that looked realistic or like anything. We could just play with abstraction or mark making or whatever. Mm-hmm. And his whole thing was about getting excited and making your own mistakes with the medium. So
good deal.
So I hope that helps.
How do you talk and draw at the same time? Aaron wants to know.
I don't usually. This is this is very new for me. This is I've been doing it here on Instagram for, but we've been doing it a couple of months now with like I think we had like a 3-week skip here the last time.
And
But
I was tired of
it's
it.
unusual. I guess part of how it happened was I started. You know that there's a phrase that says I'm never bored when I'm alone, but I'm usually bored in crowds. And when I go to shows, that's what happens to me. I start to go, get a little wiggy because I am essentially introverted, and I would start working at shows like conventions and things like that. And you cannot stop people from coming up to you at a show and staring over your shoulder and asking you questions. So I got used to it there, and I realized that I would not let any of their questions ever bother me. I wouldn't let any, if they want to stop and, and tell me that their cousin can do that, that's just one of their ways of saying something. They're not trying to insult me when they say that. So I got used to people being, in a sense, unknowingly rude. And once I got to a point where that didn't bother me, it stopped bothering me to talk when people would ask me questions when I worked, because I wasn't going to let anything they said bother me. I was just going to focus on what I was doing. And it helps me to determine my own process when I talk about it, because a lot of what I've done up to this last year or so, it was so intuitive and internal that I couldn't tell you. If you said, "How did you do that?" I wouldn't be able to tell you. And in fact, I also have come to a conclusion recently that a lot of what people want to know about how an artist does something isn't really tellable. It's like if they say, "How do you do this?" I can show you a technique that I use, but how I do it is inside.
It's all the decisions.
All the decision making. This is a result of decision making process, but this isn't the process happens internally, so it's kind of invisible. If you do multiple iterations, that's a kind of decision making, but even in that, you're still making a lot of those decisions are pre-made invisibly, and you can't look at somebody and go, "Why did you do this?" I can say things like that I look for rhythm in things and areas of contrast, and areas where like shapes will be larger and smaller, so it has like a kind of a compositional flow throughout it. And all that happens because of being able to, trying to talk to people, and it's difficult. And being by myself a lot, when I do get started, I do what I do like right now, which is ramble a lot. So.
Well, that, and I'm asking the questions, so it's...
Yeah. And I have yet to get on here, no matter what the temperature is in this room, and start talking and not be sweating by the end of it, though.
Okay.
And I think that's probably my introversion.
Oh no.
So I just...
Someone asked, they said, "I heard you had a Twitch channel." Yes, but we've never gone live
We
yet.
have the Twitch channel, and I have...
We should do that before we leave.
This nice camera that's right above me.
Yes.
So what you're seeing here is in a vertical format for Instagram, but I've started doing a high resolution recording with this Brio 4K camera, and we're going to be posting that, and that'll be in landscape.
That's on YouTube and Patreon first, then YouTube.
Right. So we'll see if that works. The last time I tried to record a high resolution video, it froze my system up over there.
Let's see if it's frozen or not.
So, well, you won't be able to tell from looking at it.
Oh yeah.
You can't tell from just looking. I mean, the camera will still go, but the system can be frozen. That's what was weird the last time. So.
Something I always struggle with, Trevor says, is maintaining the detail of my drawings in my oil painting.
Right.
Ugh.
I've had a lot of people ask about how to get detail in oil, and it's this is essentially what I do is I do it in layers, and I build up small areas of detail in transparent layers, I guess you could say, and then I'll go back and start with a more opaque, less thinned down version, but.
Okay, you recorded all of the...
I didn't record the painting part.
I know, because, the part that would...
So
the part that gets me in the painting is that there's all this detail and all these little spots, and the whole background was light, and then I come in and the whole thing is dark.
Well, what I'll do is...
Because he covers the whole, including all the details he just pulled out.
I painted a lot of details into the piece because I feel like I personally want to see them there before I do what I'm going to do. And I have a compulsive need to put detail into the work. And then I'll come back and I'll do like a layer of semi-opaque, mostly
with
transparent oil that will like basically kill the higher and lower contrast, so I can go back in and only pick out the detail that seems important to me.
So we'll get a video of
I'll do on the next one. On the next one, I'll do a video of the painting part of it.
Yes.
I just got into this and let it slide because
It's okay. We have some good video.
I
of
kept
the
coming in and
drawings.
working on it when and not thinking about turning on a video. So
Well, because we've also had discussions before. You and I have discussions before. When you turn on the video, when we're here,
yeah,
there's
different
you
decision
make
makes.
different
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah. Well, if I can turn it on, like, and forget that it's there, then it's okay. But if I know if I think about it too much when I'm running it, I start to become hesitant when I'm working, which is, and it's not that it ends up failing or anything. It's just that I start to be more timid about what I do, which is not usually a part of my process. It's usually I'll do all this detail and I'll stare at it for a few hours and then come back and I'll do like a major like shift and put like a layer of semi-transparent oil over it, or semi-opaque, depending on which side, half empty, half full you're on. But
I'd say the art community on Twitch is really inviting.
yeah, it seems to be, and I really, we really want to do it. I just haven't built that into a habit yet.
All right, what kind of reference do you like to use? Your go-to reference? Love your work.
For textural stuff, I like to look at natural organic decay, which is why I have this kind of stuff like this hanging over my desk. This is a fish skull vertebrae. This is basically a mummified fetal pig, and I have all kinds of stuff like that laying around the house. This is a little bronze sculpt from the pools.
Oh, Colin and Kristen.
Colin and Kristen, and I keep like these kind of things laying around. For figure reference, I have. I do a lot of photography I do a lot of figurative photography for stuff like that. So I'll have a ton of reference for that if I want. And if it's just like in that one video when I'm doing the layout of this piece, you'll see me using my hand and twisting it to see just to get like a certain idea of how my fingers would fit together if I were doing that. So I say use as much reference as you can. Obviously for fantastic stuff, what you need to do is comparative reference. Like people look at this and they think of like I've had people tell me that this reminds them of Geiger. Where I actually got this kind of idea for this was I was looking at the back of an alligator though, and this is sort of the alligator scale pattern is what I was looking at, which is very similar. And there's a lot of convergent evolution and visual stuff in those things.
All right, they're said. I want to make sure you'll promise you'll videotape.
I promise. We're going to go to my parents for Thanksgiving, and when I come back, I'll do. It may be a smaller painting, but I have some paintings to do. So, yeah. And so I have some magic paintings that I can't show, but I will videotape for future release. But I'll do a personal piece so that you can.
Well, you've got a couple personal pieces you have to get done.
Yeah, and some gallery stuff that we have to get done.
Yes. Okay, my sorority said I got the masterpiece cume because you showed us and it was worth what I paid for and more. Thank you very much.
I'm glad. Those are
the sharpeners.
Yeah, and you can also get replacement. Obviously, when you got it, you realize you can also buy replacement blades for it, even though it comes with a few. So they do sell blades for that as well. I guess this is sort of a satyr or a kind of a guy.
What I like on you, Sir Allen, is you're not selfish to share your techniques and procedures in your work.
Oh, well, thank you. When I was kind of starting out, I was lucky enough to meet a few artists in the illustration field, and it tends to be in illustration that people do share quite a bit. The only place I've ever seen people be kind of proprietary about some of the information is in like certain areas of animation and concept art. People get really hesitant to share like methods for doing certain things. But I happen to have been really lucky and run across some people that were always willing, to share stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to IMC, the Illustrators Masterclass, and those guys are.
They taught you ZBrush and everything.
Oh, Neville showed me. He's Neville Page. If you guys know him from Face Off and from many different things, he spent a couple hours with me on a project, just walking me through ZBrush, so I could do some digital sculpting, which I ended up, being able to do on the Star Trek Beyond. So, there's plenty of people out there that will do it, and that's sort of I just took my cue because that's how I always wanted to be. Anyways, like I feel like if you have a technique or something and you share it with people, and somebody does it like better than you, that's just motivation for you to learn even more.
Yeah.
I don't feel like any of us suffer from that kind of competition, which is, not like getting the job, but the educational competition of knowing how to do something.
Right. There will always be someone better.
Always, yeah.
There will always be
people
in front and people
conversely, no matter whether or not you like an artist or not, they're always someone's favorite artist. I've known
yes,
that. You know, it's like
absolutely.
so. You know,
How do you start out and gain a following on your social media when it comes to your art? Well,
um,
we've been around a while,
Well,
so
you know, when I first started Instagram, I basically just started posting like every 3 or 4 days.
right.
I would just post a drawing
That's not how I do
or a
it now.
sketch. That's not how Vicky does. Vicky's very much has a
I have a
method and a
schedule,
system and a schedule for it now. And to be honest,
and he totally messes up my schedule too.
sometimes I'll get excited and post something out of schedule. But and I want to give Vicky, who is filming this right now. Uh, I want to give her credit because she actually built Instagram up after they had changed some of the algorithms and it was harder to do. When I did it, it was much. I mean, there were days where I would get a couple of hundred followers like in an hour or two, and that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen as fast as that anymore. And Vicky, because of her method of doing it, has grown it quite a bit.
It's because people tell me what they're doing
right.
too and
Well,
what works for them, and
I would say the most important thing is consistency.
yes,
Is post
and
yeah,
consistency with the artwork too.
yeah, you know.
We try not to post pictures of the dogs and the kids.
Well, I don't.
Sometimes
Yeah,
you do.
I don't. I post almost exclusively artwork. Occasionally, like we just got this new puppy. I probably won't post a picture of my puppy on
Maybe.
Instagram, but it does go on my Facebook page. But
Oh, Amy Baker.
okay. So that being said, everybody should use social media. How it makes them. If it makes you feel good to show pictures of your dog, show pictures of your dog.
Yes.
Just because I don't do it, that's not the reason not to do it.
No.
Okay. I'm just saying that this is what we do to keep it kind of, I guess you could say, business targeted
Yes.
in a lot of ways. And to be honest, we only started the Patreon thing not too long ago, really, comparatively to Instagram. We did Instagram because
And I haven't been able to.
I felt like Instagram was like this ability to share things on some level for free, even though I could still make money from the originals and from doing the art. Instagram was a way of giving away some of it, you know. And I've always said this, and I kind of stand by it. That if I were wealthy, I'd probably give everything away. If I had enough money that I didn't have to worry about making a living. That being said, it's not because I don't value it. It's because I think I want other people to have fun doing it as well.
Right.
You know.
Amy Baker's art is your favorite artist.
Oh, Amy, she's so nice. You look at Amy Baker Shipley's art too. She's excellent with pencil.
It's under Amy Baker Art.
Yeah. She does a lot of portraiture.
Yes,
And
very well.
It's very
too.
well done. Yeah.
I'm amazed at how fast you draw.
It's taken
And-
a long time to get faster. I used to be much slower. There would be times like when I would work, anywhere from a couple of weeks to a month on a single drawing.
On one drawing.
Yeah. And I never really, tried to get faster. I just tried to keep doing what I was doing and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And by nature of just getting more familiar with it, and I guess more confident and knowing that I could find what I want to find, it just started getting faster.
Does your art, it's 9:36 already.
Is it really?
Jeez. Does your art help emotionally and therapeutically?
It does. There's whatever your political standpoint is, and this is not a place to really talk about basic actual viewpoints and stuff like that, I guess. But I use it a lot as a way of centering myself in a world that sometimes seems like it wants to leave humanistic traits behind, which is funny because I do monsters all the time. But I do very humanistic monsters. I do very humanistic creatures. In fact, most of the creatures that I do are guardian figures in some way or another. And yes, it is.
I'm gonna sneeze.
Oh, you're gonna sneeze. Yeah, it definitely is.
Sorry, guys.
It's very therapeutic to me. This was something that.
Sorry.
Bless you. It's something that I've carried with me since I've been old enough to know that I did it. I guess I've been drawing since I was 3 or 4 years old. And we traveled a lot when I was younger, so I didn't get to have a lot of what you would call long-term consistent friendships, except for with art. And so it has been a constant companion with me for most of my entire life.
So how do you keep your hands soft when you draw and not put pressure on the pencil? Look at the way he's drawing right now.
Yeah.
The side of the pencil, you can't really put any pressure on.
It's
hardly
different,
at all.
yeah, because I mean you can bear down with it, but on the side of the pencil you're bearing down with a flatter surface.
And you can break the.
Yeah.
That is, you're right.
So I do that when I'm like when I come up with broader areas of value or shapes, because it's conducive to that sort of thing. And then obviously when I don't want to mess up the drawing, I use a maul like this. This is just a.
But I think they're talking about the pressure on the pencil, so you're not pushing too hard on the pencil.
Well, that has a lot to do with where you rest your hand too. I mean, if you rest, if you don't, it has, I rest on my wrist bone, right? So I'm not really leaning on the pencil. I'm leaning here, and the pencil's moving here, right?
Yeah.
So I know that if you haven't done a lot of drawing, all of that stuff is new to you.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you have a problem with it, this is a solution. Putting your hand up here and then reaching down and you can go as
you can vary the pressure.
right. This is one of the reasons why I usually will do an entire drawing with like a 6B is because I can through pressure, I can create whatever value I want with that lead, even though it's pretty soft. I could do a very high key drawing with the 6B. To be honest, when you get to the harder, the really firm leads, to me, it starts to go. You start to lose
try with the softer lead, don't you think?
Well,
Not you. I mean, the person asking. You can try a softer lead. You can use.
Yeah. If you use a harder lead, you're going to end up. If you do press down pretty hard, you're going to end up burnishing. It's just a matter of practice. And
Okay.
it's a matter of practicing. How to apply. The pressure when you make the mark. And all of that is not intuitive to some people, and it doesn't necessarily mean your work is good or bad. It just means that that there are some things you have to figure out how you actually specifically do them.
Okay, our website is AllenWilliamsStudio.com. Which will be Thanksgiving in the U.S. next Thursday, so it'll be updated before then. I've been working on the spreadsheet to get everything on there, but
she's working on a book too, by the way.
yes, that's why we didn't get more videos on Patreon, because of the book thing. And our Patreon is patreon.com/AllenWilliams.
So.
We have our YouTube is Allen Williams Studio, and of course here. And you can find us at all those places, or we'll be here like we always are. How do you get through and survive art school critiques?
Oh, it's the same way that I do it when I go to shows. Is I realize that I have to turn off this button in myself that says I will respond negatively to a negative comment, and I don't. I've had people come in and tell me my work was evil because I have characters with horns, and I got to a point where I would just say, why do you think that? And then usually if you're patient with somebody, you realize that they're obviously coming from a standpoint of assumptions about what things look like, and I usually get into this conversation about that evil in our world actually just kind of looks like your next door neighbor. It doesn't have horns or a tail or wings or anything like that. And so what I'm doing is a metaphor. It's kind of like when Hieronymus Bosch would do these portraits of essentially these landscapes of hell. He wasn't creating hell. He was writing. He was making a metaphor for this internal landscape that people were fighting with, I guess you could say, because that's kind of what it was all about, I guess. But
the person asking about the pencil says they almost always use mechanical pencils.
I use mechanical pencils when I'm just going to go in detail, because I can that point you can keep it super sharp, much easier than sharpening a wood pencil.
So you use wood pencils.
I use wood pencils for the overall shape of the drawing, but mechanical pencils, I guess you can do that too. I use them too because I have like the Caran d'Ache fixed pencil with 2mm leads, but see if you look at it, I mean you can get your lead that long, but it's the thing is you end up having not as much surface to draw with, and so you end up with a different scale of detail.
Yeah.
I guess you could say you can do the same kind of drawing, but you can't make a broad stroke like you can with this, with the same kind of pressure, because this has a weak point where it will snap right there, right? Whereas the wood kind of supports it better, I guess. But I use it for detail, so I'll go in and like pick at like little things with the super sharp points of these, and I have this sharpening pencils is sort of a meditational thing for me too, by the way.
Right.
So when I'm working, it's like let's see, when I start working, I might sharpen my pencil 2 or 3 times in an hour. Not as much as people think I do, because I'll end up working on the edge of the pencil, which creates a beveled edge, but there's always a point on it, and I've gotten used to, I guess subconsciously I'll just rotate.
Spin it.
I'll spin the pencil to the point, so there's always like you know, kind of a sharp edge to work with somewhere on the edge, and I'll find it.
So this is my question, since we get sort of this question. Do you think, since you can use such a soft hand, it helps you from getting hand cramps and carpal tunnels? Because people ask all the time about if you
I must be doing something like that because I use different sized materials, and I use pencil extenders that are different sizes, and I don't usually ever have any hand problems. Knock on wood. But I know other people do, and the only difference I can see is that I always have a kneaded eraser in my hand, and I'm drawing with a really relaxed hand. I'm also one of those guys that with you know, with a digital stylus, I have never worn a tip out on any of my digital pens.
Yes.
So
you're like, I wore tips out, and he goes,
I don't even know what it would feel like to actually wear one of those tips out because I've never done it. You know, so I must draw fairly lightly. That's probably why I work with you know, the darker leads. So
right.
You know, I favor them.
Watching you is therapeutic for me, he says.
Oh, well, thank you.
How do you get a solid black color without the glossy look from pressing too hard?
Well, the thing is that with graphite, you build up like solid areas slowly, not fast. So you end up going over an area gently, and if you do that, that'll give you a rich black. If you press down hard, you'll get a polished, burnished black, right? And going over it softly over and over again.
Yeah, because he'll do this like.
So the lead, this is where I would start actually, if I really wanted it to go, you know, more and more dense, I would start sharpening the lead, and then if you can get close enough to see it, you see the grain in there, I would start picking at the grain with a sharper lead. I would start like kind of doing this to pick it out, you know, just to get to the spots. Wherever there's a spot of white, I would touch it, and it's almost like it gives it a pointillistic look, you know?
Yeah, that's when he looks at me and he goes, look what I did.
And yeah, I've been working on it for like 4 hours, and she can't see what I did.
Extra. I do now.
Yeah, you do now. But if I really want to get rid of the gloss, because even doing it like this, eventually you can burnish the paper enough and put enough lead on it that it'll gloss itself down. That's when I'll spray it. I'll use my airbrush and spray a matte medium on the top of it.
Right.
And it'll kill all the gloss, all of it.
Oh, and someone asked if you ever use a 9B. He uses 10Bs.
I have 10Bs, yeah. This is
10Bs are some of his
the
favorites.
Mitsubishi Hayoni 10Bs. And these are pretty good. They're very soft and buttery they're almost like painting when you work with them. So, but
horns. Oh, I'm wondering if you're gonna do horns.
Oh yeah, that's what this is. So, and it's funny because I'll usually just I'll kind of like do a loose kind of pattern. This doesn't really do anything but give me these are guidelines because I'm going to go darker than that anyway, or I'll just draw over it and you won't see it. But it's sort of like defining your direction lines on a shape, right?
Yes.
And so then this is fun to do on time lapse because what it looks like is it just grows out of one spot, you know. Because I'll do it, you know, I'll do it loosely because if you get into like especially with something like horns or anything that has a repeated scale or bone shape, you do it loosely and get into a pattern, and it starts to even out. Like it starts to become. It starts to look like something that was grown rather because I mean I don't do individual shapes right away because then it seems like I can go wrong quicker than if I just let myself do it loosely first. You know.
What year do you think you developed your own unique style and technique?
This has been interesting. I just got asked this question recently because a friend of mine is doing a talk at One Fantastic Week workshop. Yeah. And it happened not in a specific year, but in a specific period of time after I had my kids, because I started Duncan, and we had him in 2001. Two. And I started having more of a work ethic after we had children because, you know, if you have kids, you know that they take up a lot of time, and if you don't have
shit.
If you don't have a work ethic, you'll never get anything done because
I better do the work when I have the time to work.
So. And during that time, I also started it was right around that time, 2000. I started going to like conceptart.org, ca.org, and doing like the challenges that they had, and seeing what everybody was doing. I started feeling like, okay, well, I haven't been thinking about what I want to do enough, and I sort of took the opposite standpoint that a lot of teachers will tell you. Not that they're wrong. It's just that that work differently for
you,
me.
it
For
worked
me, it worked
differently.
differently. They say that, don't worry about style; it'll come to you. Well, for me, not worrying about style meant that I looked like everybody else's stuff because I would emulate other people's styles all the time.
Yeah.
And then one day I got this notion that I want to study the things that I like and realize that what it was about them that I liked, and bring the things that I liked to look at into my own work. And I figured out that I didn't really like to look at smoothly rendered things as much as I liked velvet and texture. And I didn't really like glass as much as organic. I didn't really like metal as much as organic. Even though occasionally now I'm starting to get this urge to do things that are like hard surface stuff that I've not really ever done before, just because I haven't done it, to see what I would do with it now.
I'm going to do I think I need to do something completely.
Well, and we do these things that I took this from the movie Hunt for Red October. There was
anyone who's been here before has heard that.
Yeah, you've heard this before. That there was a part of the movie where a submarine does something they called a crazy Ivan, where they would go at right angles to what they were doing to see who was following them. And I took that in my own work. I sometimes will go at right angles to the things that I'm doing to try something new, and we call it doing a crazy Ivan, because I'll come out with something that it looks considerably different than the other stuff that I've done.
Moondog.
Like the Moondog that was done in watercolor.
You more Moondog.
That was not too long ago. So, and that was purely because of the Hunt for Red October that phrase came about in me. But it is disconcerting for people who follow your work, because they get used to seeing you do one thing.
What are you doing?
Because I also early on I was doing pinup a lot, and a lot of figurative type, I guess you could say, like Soriyama and Olivia style pinup kind of things. And I just sort of one day kind of lost interest in that particular kind of work, and I realized that there was a difference between pinup and figurative. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, but not that I'm discounting people who do pinup work, because there's still some beautiful work out there to be seen.
No, you just stopped doing it.
It just wasn't what was hitting me, at the time. And so I did a crazy Ivan then too. I sort of just started going in a completely different direction, completely alienated the fan base that I had built up to that point.
Yeah, it's not a great thing to do.
Well, no, but it's an honest thing to do.
Yeah.
So if you do it business wise, you definitely can take a hit. But the thing is
or you can do it not quite so crazy.
Well, you can make smaller changes, and you can still do that kind of work and support yourself. Like I said before, I never really had the ability to do work because of how much it paid me, though.
Oh, we were wondering. It's different for everyone. In years working. How long into your career until you figured it out? It was like 20 years.
Yeah, it was a while.
If it was 2000, okay, we've been together since 88.
And I started doing work professionally in 88.
Right.
Yeah,
so it was 88, 98, 2000. It was about 2008. So maybe 18 years. Well, maybe 2006.
Around 2008 was when my stuff started distinctly looking like the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But 2000 was when I started changing my fundamental way of going about doing things.
True. Yeah.
So.
In 2002 when we had Duncan. Because you walked into the room with them and went, "How am I supposed to get any work done?"
Right. When I
have him around.
Well, I used to wear Duncan on a one of those backpacks, and he would be with me everywhere I went.
Yeah.
And we and so I mean, that's a lot of fun if you're into that sort of thing. And we would walk all over town. We'd spend hours walking all over town. Yes. And I realized that I'm not going to get anything done unless I start working when I can. So
say hello from Mexico.
Oh, hello Mexico. Cool. I love it.
They said that's comforting.
Yeah.
And
the point of all that is you need to take as much time as you need. Right? Don't feel like you have to get stuff done. There is an urgency to making a living. And what you need to do is, become baseline successful at that, so that you can take as much time as you need to find whatever else you need to find. For some people, making a living is really what they want, and so they learn quickly how to incorporate that into their, I guess you could say, their psyche of how to go about doing work. For me, I had such a transient feeling of the world because I traveled so much, and I lived in different places. And my parents, had different levels of income, wildly different at different times of the year, that it was never something that I counted on. So for me, it had to be something else. It had to be that thing that I carried with me all the time, you know, that motivated me. So
did you feel a challenge or interruption in that with the new age of social media?
I felt what I felt, and this is in direct response to that, was I felt challenged because I saw how much everyone was doing all the time. And I know that part of that is an illusion, because what you see most of the time online is everything, or the best pieces that people put forward, and you don't see the mistakes. But at the time, it wasn't quite so hectic when I started it. So when I was at ca.org, they had a weekly challenge, and I could do that, and I could come up with like a character of the week or a creature of the week or something like that. It seems more hectic to me now when people come up, that people pay more attention now than they did then, and it's become more of a stress point for some people.
Yeah, but I think when you're talking about social media, you have to realize that back when you started, before social media, the only time that art directors or other artists got to see you was when it was before websites. Yeah. So when you would go somewhere.
Yeah. You'd go to a show and have a book,
and you'd
portfolio
have to
that you would
pay
leave
for that,
people.
yes, or you'd have to pay to get into the show, or if you were doing the show, you'd have to pay for a booth and everything like that. And so you have it a little easier and a little harder because everybody gets seen then, and you just have to kind of move with the motion and fight the waves.
And it's very, and I want to say something else too. With all that's out there, it's very hard to start out and feel distinctive. So I would say don't worry about feeling distinctive when you start out. Just worry about doing those, doing the work that feels good to you, and then, get as much of that out as you can. And you'll figure it out, whether you're the type of person that needs to just focus on the work and your voice will come to you, or you're like me and you need to actively search for it,
So, Castronaut said, appreciate the differentiation in making a living / making art. I know a lot of artists at the moment that either knock artists who are solely for making a living or solely for making their own art. Well, and you can't.
No, I would never do that, because the thing is that it's, people have to act in each of them according to their own nature.
Yes.
And just because I work a certain way
does not mean that's the way you have to work.
Right. In fact, when people say, "How do you do this?" I can say, "Well, I can show you how I do it, but I can't necessarily tell you. I can't give you the invisible part about how I make certain kinds of decisions, because that's based on experience. And even though I might be able to tell you after the fact, it's kind of part of it is a very nonverbal thing that happens inside you, just like most of the people that are probably listening to this right now, in some ways their aesthetic is going to differ from each and every one of the others, and it's how we all do things differently that make it special.
Right. Someone was asking what pencils you're using. Is it that's a Mitsubishi Hayuni?
I actually forgot that I had switched pencils a minute ago.
There was a full one right up there.
So I swapped over to the 10B, which is even softer, and I was using a 6B, but I get these. These are the Tombow Mono 100s.
Lift it up here.
Oh,
thank you. You can't see it at all, but they're the Tombow Mono 100s.
Oh, it's because it's black.
They're all black.
So they're like this, and they have a plastic cap on the end.
Tombow Mono 100s. You can look at our website though. I have that all listed out, and then the red ones and then the maroon ones.
These are the 10B, the Mitsubishi Hayuni 10Bs, and I get everything through Jet Pens, and it's kind of funny because lately some of my favorite pencils are being sold out, and I wonder if I'm responsible for some of that. I hope so, because my hope is that they make more money and they keep producing this particular tool. Because
hey, Joss Monson.
Oh, hey, Joss.
And someone asked how you were able to transform sketches to a finished piece. He will work on this if he wants to finish this out for another, I don't know, 10 hours or something.
If I want,
yeah, and that's it's just more work on the same thing.
I could work on this, and it's time. It's if I wanted to paint it, I could probably leave it where it is right now and project it and have enough detail. I mean, I would have. This is more than enough detail to start painting with. Right. I just like to play with it so much that I map out little bits and pieces in the drawing that, like, a lot of times, like if I were to reproduce this, it would change, and that's okay because I would pick up slightly different patterns.
But if you're finishing this as a drawing, how long are you going to spend on it?
Oh, if I were this size, this is actually pretty big for this kind of a thing. I don't know, I'd probably spend 10 to 15 hours on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Go, oh, I just spit last night. I was like, wow, last night. Oh,
And this is right now my crank pencil sharpener that I use quite often.
Yes.
This
You are welcome.
Is the Carl Angel 5.
Carl Angel 5.
It's all metal, so it doesn't wear down as much in different parts.
And you have to set it on your.
It has to. That's the only place I can brace it and set it on my belly. And it does.
So people in the other video won't be able to see it.
So
wait.
Well, it was this.
The Carl Angel 5. Oops.
I just got a graphite. So it's all right. So this is the Carl Angel 5. So.
Let me see the top of it.
Huh? Right there.
There you go. Carl Angel 5.
Now the important part. Hold on. So this is when it gets to the point where I start doing things that make people think I'm crazy. I went in with a Dremel into the. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a lead stop right there, and I went in with a Dremel and filed out the lead stop so that it makes a longer, more tapered point. I don't know if you can see that or not. Can you see it?
Yes, you can see it.
So sometimes you got to be careful when you blow dust off your drawing because you'll accidentally spit on it. I've done that a lot. And then you just have to walk away from it and let it dry, and
don't touch it.
And don't touch it. Yeah.
Don't touch it.
There's some pretty weird things that have happened to drawings over the years. I had a cat sit on one time. That's not good.
That's not good.
Yeah. So.
Yes, the sharpener stopped too soon. He will go in and he always.
Yeah.
He always. Ooh, that's a sharp point on that pencil now.
Yeah. Well, see, and when I have a super sharp point, I'll go in and like do detail with it. And then when it starts to dull, I'll go back to doing the shapes and stuff.
And it's almost time to go, but let's get this last one in there because this has been asked before.
Huh?
How can you understand tutorial drawings from artists and not just copy them? Because I feel complicated when I see a lot of other works I want to do like them.
So if you're looking at a tutorial and you follow it line for line, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a tutorial. You just don't sell the work as anything but a study or a tutorial drawing. What you do is you copy it the first time, and then you put that away and do another drawing that's different, utilizing those techniques, right? The whole idea of copying a teacher's drawing or whoever is tried and true. That's a way of that people learn. That's the whole academic way of teaching drawing is based on master studies and things like that. So what you don't do is just don't promote it as an original piece of art. You set it on. If you show it, you go, this was a study done after this artist in this tutorial. And again, one of the first things that people do is emulate, right? And then you emulate and then internalize. And once you internalize all this stuff, you'll start making decisions that are different than the artist that you were learning from. And it's going to become, more and more your own thing. But
so this goes into this next question. Based on your experiences, past and current achievements, and overall abilities you've accumulated over time, are you content with where you are, or do you believe your style has room to grow?
I definitely think it's going to grow. The thing is that the more that I do, the more that I see that it's possible to do.
Oh, and you have 30 seconds.
Yeah. So I constantly can see further than I've reached. And I mean, that's the benefit of it. You do something, you fix something that you love to do that is going to constantly force you to evolve and grow. And it's just always been that way.
And we will talk to you guys maybe next week, maybe not.
Thanks for coming.
All right. Bye.